Hey, everybody, welcome to our very first episode of the Tech Founder Show. I'm Tony Zayas, joined by Andy Halko. How's it going, Andy?
It's good. I can't complain. I'm excited. We have a whole new show that we're now going to be doing on Tuesdays, talking to really cool tech founders. We've been talking to SaaS founders on Wednesdays with some great stories. And now these tech founders, we're going to dive in, I think, a little bit into some of the really cool technology trends and what's happening with them, which is a different spin. So pretty exciting, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. So our very first guest here, we have Cenk Sidar from GlobalWonks. Let me go ahead and bring him in here. Hey, Cenk, how you doing?
Hi, guys. Great to see you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time. Super excited.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you're up to, what GlobalWonks does, and we'll go from there. But let's hear about what you guys do.
Great. Thank you. So we're basically GlobalWonks is an insight software platform. So we are a platform that decision makers can access insights on a real-time basis. So we have 3 channels. We have a marketplace. We have about 27,000 experts in 180 countries in different fields, from blockchain to agriculture policy to fintech to cryptocurrencies to whatever you can think of. They're relevant to business and policy. So our clients can engage our platform and ask any question or challenge they have, and within minutes, their question and their challenge is matching with the right experts on a real-time basis through mobile app and or web platform, and they receive at least 5, average 8 to 10 expert insights within 24 hours, but mostly those answers coming within the first hour or so.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's such a big idea. When you think about it, like I was looking through your site and watching your video, and it just, experts from all over the country. How'd you get to this? What was the origin story for you?
Yeah, sure. My background is in business consulting and international risk. So I grew up in Istanbul, Turkey. As you know, emerging markets are full of risks in economy, politics, and also running a business is much riskier in countries that institutions are not that strong. So that's why I started being very interested in risk. I studied business in Istanbul, Turkey. Then I came here to Washington, D.C. in 2006 and studied international affairs and international economics. So my first job was a traditional risk advisory shop. So basically helped American businesses to go and invest or operate in emerging markets. Like in those years, like when I first started my company in 2009, my traditional risk advisory firms are global advisors. Basically, those were very interesting years. The global economic crisis, the Arab Spring, the Greek economic collapse. So everything was about risk and how you understand and mitigate risk to operate in those high risk regions. So the reason I started GlobalWonks is in my previous company, basically, we were engaging local experts on a traditional manner, and we utilized technology like LinkedIn or email or WhatsApp or whatever you think of. But still, there was a middleman who happened to be me and my team. So there was no reason in today's technology world that you need a middleman. So we created a technology at GlobalWonks. That was my core idea at that point. In 2017, we started working on it. We built the first marketplace in 2019. The idea was to get rid of the middleman and create a platform that you can immediately engage an expert for a question or phone call or report without needing this expensive middleman company that will charge us 2x, 3x time, more. It's basically, I give that example, but we were more like, direct marketplace, platform for high-level, high-end consultants that usually didn't have platforms to participate in. So we not only provided that direct access to companies or executives within large firms or medium-sized companies or funds, but also we enabled a lot of independent consultants throughout the world to earn additional income using our platform and supporting company challenges in their specific expertise matters.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I noticed that your site mentions artificial intelligence and natural language processing.
Yeah.
How are you using technologies like that to support the end outcome that your product provides?
Great question, Andy. So basically what we do is every time a client logs in our platform and submits a question, so let's say the client is asking a question about a real estate market in Ohio, right, in a certain city, let's say Columbus. And when you ask the question about real estate market and the projections for next 5 years, we're not pinging 27,000 experts. It's not like a forum. Basically, our algorithm determines who knows about the specific real estate market in Columbus, who work in that market, who has the relevant educational and professional background, and chooses top 200 people that may be relevant to that question, and submit that question to those people. And what happens is, so basically there's a lot of natural language processing because we are analyzing every question and determining who knows about this subject in our network. And the second thing is we also have a technology that we built. We have a AI engaged in assessing responses we receive. So we may be getting 20, 30 responses, but our basal bot decides the best responses provided, looking at the context of the response, the content of the response, the experience of people, and the previous ratings of experts. So we basically created this much more sophisticated Quora or Yellow Answers model, and people came to ask questions. I mean, our clients buy credits. It's a tokenized system. So they purchase a certain number of credits to ask questions in the platform, and or experts or people in our platform gets paid when they go and answer questions on real-time basis. So basically, if I'm independent consultant based anywhere in the world, and I'm subject matter expert on any subject, and I can basically answer 5-6 questions a day and easily make $80 to $150 a day, just replicating the answers I provided within the specific context the client asked the question. So we are helping experts or independent consultants to utilize and monetize their existing knowledge, as well as helping all these companies to reach out to better insights and make more informed decisions in the process of operations or investments they make. So, and the other way we use also the artificial intelligence. So we have thousands of questions asked in our platform, on an annual basis. So what we do is we run data analytics on these questions on real-time basis, and we see what topics are more relevant. Of course, we're not looking at the specific questions the client asks. I'm talking about metadata and anonymized metadata. So we can easily measure, okay, there are more questions about food tech this year compared to last year. Food tech is becoming an important issue. Or this week, we had more questions about Tesla. So it means that there's some market sentiment, has been improving, or also basically decreasing, depending on the sentiment of responses provided to certain questions. So we are still at the early phase of this data analytics part because we don't have hundreds of thousands of questions yet in the platform. Hopefully we will get one day soon. But at this point, we're trying to build the meaningful data sets to run data analytics. So AI is definitely where we're coming. But the most exciting thing, and I mean, I love that question and I love answering that because there's a lot of hype about AI, right? There's a lot of hype about data science. Every company is an AI company now. You have every company, the matching algorithm claims to be AI company. But I give an example, what makes us different or technology is different. We are building the optimal solution for in the knowledge economy, which is combination of artificial intelligence, human intelligence, and the data science. So if we are missing any of these, three components, our solution wouldn't work. And I think no solution would be helpful to decision makers, because in social sciences, in business, in politics, in policy, you cannot remove the human judgment from the equation, because this is not like a quant analysis of certain things, but there are people making decisions in that kind of like situation. So you need to have a human intelligence and human judgment part of the decision making. So we are putting the human judgment as part of the equation by engaging real people, real experts, but we augment the experience by bringing the sophisticated matching algorithm as well as NLP, etc. But one other example I give you, so we are building technologies such as providing real-time analysis on major events. For example, the tragic event of last night, right, in Boulder, Colorado, there was a shooting. First 10 minutes of the shooting, we didn't know what the motivation was. Is it coordinated attack, or I can give you another example of a Notre Dame fire, or the Cathedral fire in Paris. So if you're leading security leader in a company and you have people around the region, you need to know what's happening. Is it like a lone wolf attack? Is a crazy person shooting, or is something that may be having other implications, and longer term implications? So we build a technology now. We're working on a technology now. We are detecting this last minute breaking news, and we can immediately ask question about that subject, and that question would go to law enforcement or relevant people in a real-time basis. So we can, within 10, 15 minutes, we can have some educated analysis around the subject. Again, it's a great example how we engage AI. So we look at the media, we look at the breaking news, determine what news are important for our clients. If the Minister of Finance resigns in Brazil and we have a hedge fund investing in Brazilian equities, so they're not just interested in the news that the Brazilian finance minister resigned. They're interested on potential implications of this news and how Brazilian financial markets will be impacted, so his or her portfolio will lose or gain value after that news. So we are creating this next generation tools for the knowledge economy that will make the investors and executives make more informed decisions.
I'm kind of interested real quick, for other founders out there in this AI data space, of the value that you see in the metadata that you're pulling. Is that another business model potentially out? Is this the questions that are being asked and the trends and the types of answers outside of the fact of connecting the experts with people that have questions?
Look, there are a lot of platforms. There are great companies connecting decision makers with experts, right? There are larger companies than us. This expert network business is around about 20, 25 years. But they connect you to the person who has the insights or who has the expertise. They don't connect you to the expertise directly. So what we are specializing on is basically we don't want you to just get connected to the person who knows about it, because after that point, you need 2-3 days to set up a call, to set up a meeting, or ask the question to get the answer. So it's a 2-3 day process. At least in many other expert networks, it takes about 5 to 10 days. You identify the person who knows about the subject, and then you talk to that person and get the knowledge about it. In today's business world, you don't have 5 to 7 days to talk to an expert. In 5 to 7 days, that matter may be even irrelevant to you. So that's why we focus on real-time insights collection. Every time you go to the platform and ask a question, in 10, 15 minutes, you have expert insights coming to your dashboard. So we don't have any competition in this space because, again, we built this optimal solution combining human, machine, and data. And I think we will be in a great space to grow this by improving our technology, growing a network, and even provide more granular insights. So even our platform now, if we ask about a specific company in Thailand and how their company's growth projections are, I assure you will have at least 15 to 30 people who can comment smartly on their company. As we grow the network, we're adding about 600 to 1,000 new experts a week. So as we get more experts on our platform, onboard more experts on the platform, and our algorithm becomes more targeted and more sophisticated, or granularity levels of answering those questions will be even better. So it's a kind of continuous process. We are in definitely better position than we were last year. Last year, this time, we have about 5,000 experts. Today, we have 27,000 experts.
Wow.
About 10 clients. We have about 54 clients plus 200 users in the platform. So we triple our revenues almost every quarter. So this is just exciting times to run a business, focus on the knowledge economy, especially after, I hope I can say, after COVID process.
I was just going to ask about that, Cenk. Where do you see this knowledge economy going? Obviously, there were, the major disruptions that COVID and the pandemic triggered changed business as people do it. But I think this was headed in a direction anyway. In a lot of ways, things were accelerated. Where do you see the expert, kind of knowledge economy going?
Look, there are two major trends post-pandemic world. The first one is, like COVID-19 accelerated many trends, right? We were talking about work from anywhere. I don't like the term work from home because it doesn't need to be home. You can work from anywhere. So that's why I use that term. And we were talking about it in the past, but it was a matter of next 5-10 years, right? But we saw the acceleration. Immediately we were at homes in 2 weeks after that was announced as a global pandemic. So now everyone works from home or anywhere they want. But the problem is how they collaborate, how they socialize, how they get to collaborate on sophisticated manners. So I may be a McKinsey or BCG consultant working from my home or from Tulum or wherever I decided to be at that point. But if I need to engage someone within the firm who has experience on some area that, so I need to go and communicate with that person, and there are no tools available. So first of all, the first, most importantly, I think hybrid workforces like collaboration in the knowledge economy, efficient technologies will play an important role. That's why I think there's a hype about Zoom or Slack. But on the other hand, those technologies are great, but they're not sophisticated tools to enable knowledge collaboration. They're more like great video conferencing system and great communication system, but they're not tools that I can identify people who know about the subject in my company, so I can engage the person directly. So second, so this is one. This is the first trend, changing nature of working. The second important aspect is I think COVID world showed us the world is much more complex and complicated than we imagined. Some people were writing about it, talking about it. I'm a global risk expert. So I, wrote about pandemics, etc. But even us talking about the pandemic risk didn't imagine that such a pandemic would change our lives from bottom up, right? That was a traumatizing experience for most of us, from every perspective. But one thing we realized that a health crisis may impact anything under the sun. So supply chain, the financial markets, the rise of technology companies. So everything is kind of connected to each other. And it's impossible to know all about the subject. I could be a security head or a senior strategic consultant, has all these amazing degrees or whatever, McKinsey guy, but they will not be able to understand the scientific aspect of coronavirus and they're going to impact, the workforce, or they will not understand how the supply chain security has been threatened. So that's why I think we live in an age that you need specific expertises on real-time basis. So you need to engage people and create hybrid teams. So in order to understand and mitigate risk of your supply chain from Asia to Europe or from Asia to United States, you need to have a logistics expert, like epidemiologist, like, you need to have like a security expert, like maybe like financial analysts, to look at the changing numbers of container prices over the time. So knowledge economy, I think, becomes more and more complicated. The global economy becomes more complicated. So you need more knowledge and insights to make better decisions and navigate through those crazy times. And I assure you, we will have similar other holistic crises in the future that will threaten the businesses. Only the businesses that are ready to understand and to mitigate the risk will be able to survive.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. You think about data that's out there, and there's disparate data and silos of data, but then you say that knowledge, what's in someone's head, that there's so much that's out there, it's hidden, it's buried, it's disparate, and spread out, and having the ability not just to pull data in, but pull knowledge in to solve a problem, is a transformational concept in the world, because now when you're solving a problem, you can get access to a lot of knowledge that is sitting out there that you never would have been able to get access to previously.
It is the most underutilized asset, global knowledge. There are a lot of people who knowing a lot of stuff, and there are a lot of supply-demand mismatch here because you don't know who knows what. And you don't know if someone needs your knowledge and ready to pay thousands of dollars sometimes because you went through the same issue that the CEO has been going through now, and your 1 hour advice would be worth of hundreds of thousands of dollars if you can create the connection between the supply and demand. And that's what we are working on. It's not only the external issue though, that's I think the more exciting part about also our technology. We have the marketplace model, which is again operating since 2019. But now we built another product called Centaur, and Centaur is this historic, horseman mix, if you remember, from the mythological books. But we call it because it's a human-machine combination of model. So that product is now basically enables large corporations implement our technology internally, so they can ask questions internally to their employees and engage in the same algorithm. So if I'm Walmart, I have 200,000 people working within Walmart. If I have a specific supply situation in one of the locations, so we are creating that technology now that we will be able to submit your challenge for the specific issue, and another location supply manager will be answering you within seconds without paying anything, but like Slack, user subscription model. So we are working on it now. And you can tell me why Slack doesn't do it, because Slack is just a communication tool. They don't provide you the real-time matching. They don't know your expertise. And we are focused on expertise and knowledge sharing that is extremely unique in the market right now.
Yeah, you talk about the value, and it makes me think of the analogy of the engineer plumber where, someone's factory is down, the plumber comes in and turns something in 2 minutes and says that's $5,000. The guy goes, you only spent 2 minutes, but he's like, no, but I've been practicing this for 20 years. That's what you're paying for. And that's how I knew to do the right thing in 2 minutes. So it's really interesting to me of that whole idea that you're really exposing access to these folks that have that knowledge and experience, and, there's value to that. So.
No, exactly. I mean, I think it's a win-win-win. I mean, basically independent consultants in our network, not only in the US, but in many regions in the world, impacted by COVID significantly. Many people lost their jobs in, consulting shops or banks or, in other industries that have been significantly impacted by it. They can continue earning income, being on our platform, answering questions on real-time basis and picking up a few expert calls and writing a couple of reports. I mean, also one of the most exciting part of running a company in this space. Again, as you mentioned, the knowledge is so underutilized, and people are not monetizing their knowledge enough. So we are helping a lot of people and underrepresented groups, like like a woman in Middle East, people working in like developing countries, to earn same amount of compensation like someone in London, New York, Singapore. So we're also like helping. We're also creating this equalizing force in workspace. So it doesn't matter where you are based. Again, work from anywhere. Why a consultant in DC or New York gets paid more than a consultant in Nigeria who provides same intelligence, same insights, knowledge? There's no explanation from it, because the company shouldn't care about my living expenses, right? I mean, is at the end is like the efficiency. So we created this tool, and we are helping the knowledge workers to be treated and paid more fairly, in global markets.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm kind of interested about the natural language processing. So, I remember hearing a few years ago of like that being one of the key steps into moving into artificial intelligence, because if we could truly understand the sentiment of what people say, because everybody says things a little bit differently. And so there's a lot of nuance to natural language processing. I'm kind of curious if you don't mind sharing a little bit about, for our audience that may not know, what is natural language processing, and, how does it impact, different technologies and things like artificial intelligence?
Sure, I can talk from the business perspective. I'm more like the business person. I'm not a AI scientist or data scientist. But what I can tell you, there are a lot of business implications and benefits. I mean, AI in general, when people talk about AI, they talk about automation of mundane tasks, or automation of certain jobs and job loss and potential social unrest in the future, etc. So AI is definitely a large subject, and I'm interested in the social, political, and economic implications of how AI will be shaping our lives next, 5, 10, 25 years. But NLP is, more specific technology, and we engage NLP for our, core platform. And what tells us is, basically, let's say I'm asking a question about U.S. economy and how, how macroeconomists look at the U.S. economy health in next 5, 10, 15 years. So what we are doing is we are basically categorizing every question coming to our platform. So we have hundreds of questions asked about U.S. economy. As I mentioned, the average question receives 8 to 10, 12 responses. I think the number is like about 9 or 10. But let's say 10 responses. So it's 10x insights or answers provided to each question. So technically, we can create these timelines and time series, and and put the data and see. So okay, how do macroeconomists view the U.S. economy? How is their sentiment has been changing? Maybe if we have like 300 questions last 2 years, and we match that questions with answers and major events happening, and we can even augment the data sets with some social media data, connect that with certain, major political or economic news. So we will have the complete picture how the sentiment for U.S. economy has been changing over like last 2 years, and where we are now. From 0 to 100, are we at the 75 or 60? Why did we go from 6 to 75 after the recent, elections in the U.S.? So we can provide full picture, because a lot of data science solutions to such social issues, they look at the social media data, right? What are people writing about this? Or they're looking at major news. How many times the inflation issue has been covered by Wall Street Journal or Financial Times or The Economist. So we can basically look at all these things, because now as other technologies, many data science solutions become more commodity products. So we have access to all this open source data. We can run any data analysis open source data, but the real value that we have, we can see how the perspective, how the sentiment of macroeconomic professor at Columbia University or Harvard or USC change over the last 2 years, and how we can quantify, how we can accumulate those expert sentiments and provide some directional analysis to hedge funds or private equities that would like to make decisions about the investments. Again, I mean, there are a lot of like scientific, like, or there are a lot of size of our algorithm that we can change, and we are testing different, of course, weights and the equations. We have an amazing AI team in the company that led by our head of engineering, Arno Jaspar. And this is a continuous thing, right? There are more tools becoming available, more data becomes available. Data is the fuel of AI, right? As we get more data and more engagements in the platform, I think in 5 years, our data sets will be, extremely demanded in the financial industry, because that will be the only solution that putting human data and AI together and providing this complete holistic picture for investors.
It's kind of interesting to me that, and I don't know if you agree with this statement, but that natural language processing is really about improving efficiency and reducing risk, because, if you're not processing the language and the questions or what people are saying correctly, you're either potentially bringing the wrong information, which could be a risk issue, or efficiency, because it takes more time for you to continue to dig and look. And so, the advancement of something like natural language processing can be really powerful for any type of business to potentially look at how they improve efficiency or reduce risk, which I assume is how it potentially impacts your product, because you're getting to better answers faster and reducing the effort of your clients.
Again, great question, because now what we're doing now is basically when the question is submitted on the platform, right? I told you, like, we're pinging about 200 experts on real-time basis. We have a mobile app. They can get the notification through their mobile app or the email. So what we are doing is, of course, we're trying to have always amazing responses, and our expert network is very high quality. We have high standards, vetting and approving people on the network. But still, we built NLP-powered technology, so every answer coming in to the platform before those answers released to the client dashboard, is being checked automatically towards plagiarism, if someone copy-pasted it from somewhere in the world. So it's checked by grammar and typos. So if your answer has a lot of typos and grammar mistakes, it's not going to be released. And the third, the content you provide. So we are working on the subjective, objective. Is it answering the question? Is it not answering the question? Is it repeating the question in a different way? So those are ongoing projects. Of course, we're just trying to make it better. And sometimes, there's a plagiarism red flag comes up, but there's no plagiarism, or sometimes vice versa. But or we currently have this mechanic Turk approach. If you know the term, is like basically machine human collaboration is like, we still have a human eyes. We're looking every time an answer provided and checked by our AI. We still have smart people in our team looking at the question, if the AI worked well or didn't work well. We can make the AI, the algorithm work better, how the NLP works. Was it really plagiarized answer, or was it something like the machine got confused? Or maybe the typos are not that important at that case. The answer is amazing, but the person's English is not great. That's fine, because the client may be interested more in the substance rather than the look. So we are basically increasing the automation of our team, because in the past our team was looking all the answers on a manual basis like a year ago, and we had like 24/7 teams approving or rejecting responses coming. Now we automated up to like 75-80%, and it will just get better as we collect more data and we have a better understanding of our network and white labeling technology, or getting some people the scores, and those scores are impacting their level of approval or rejection at that point.
Yeah, I always found it interesting how AI were training computers to be more human. What were you going to ask, Tony?
No, I was just going to ask Cenk about that. So along those lines, what was it like in the business earlier on when you had less data in there and less users? What were some of the challenges you faced? Because obviously it sounds like the more data you have, the more input, the more you're processing, the more it's learning, the better it's running. How does that work, and how did you get past those barriers up front?
Yeah, we did a lot of trial engagements in the platform. Again, let me be clear. There were a lot of Q&A products in the market, like Yahoo Answers, you guys remember, Quora, and they all try to create a compensation model. But it's difficult if you are open to the public. And, that's why, when older people ask me what we've been doing, I'm explaining like if LinkedIn and Quora would have a baby, that will be the network pulse, because we are close network, like an elite professional network, but powered by Quora type of engagement. Not public though, it's not forum, only the client sees the question. So in the earlier days, that was a kind of experimental for many businesses to try the product. So we did provide a lot of trial credits. We worked with some. We were lucky to have amazing investors from almost day one that are from the industries like former financial executives, people who work at major consulting firms like McKinsey, EY, Eurasia Group. We had a lot of people that had experience in technology. So we were able to start testing the product market fit. Again, because we changed the behavior a little bit. Because in the past, or even now, many businesses or many investors, when they want to talk to an expert, the first thing they do is they're calling somebody they know who may have an idea, who knows about it. If it's more sophisticated, they work with large expert network that are in the market, like GLG, GuidePoint, AlphaSize, those companies that started earlier. So they have accounts with them, and they arrange a expert call, using their expert networks. But we believe that's a very slow and old-fashioned way, because again, it takes time. You're talking to one expert, and most of the time you talk to the expert, the issue may be even not relevant. So we told them, look, there's a better way. While you're paying thousands of dollars to talk to one expert and rely on his or her expertise in that subject, why don't you run, and we charge $300 per question. Is almost 1/4 of the market price for expert call. Is an interesting market. When you talk, it's usually $1,200 to $1,500. Yeah. In our model, you spend $300, ask a question, you see, as I mentioned, 10 expert opinions. You can click and see their backgrounds, who responded my questions. And this is a $300 risk, and it happens within 2 hours, right? And then if you read all these responses, and basically the experts don't see each other's responses, there is no groupthink mentality. So only you are the one as the client seeing all the responses, and I can click on my dashboard and have a real-time video call in our embedded video conferencing system for $600. So in total, you're spending $900 having 10 different opinions first, analyzing all these opinions, become more educated on the subject, and then go and do the call with the one that you think is most fitting. The reason I told you, Tony, is that because in the beginning, even that makes full sense for everybody, right? Why you basically telling them like you get 10 expert opinions, plus you have a phone call, plus it happens much faster, better experts, because you decide at the end who you want to talk, and it's still 30% cheaper than the traditional solution. Still, changing the user behavior is difficult. No matter what, there's still people not using Uber, but calling the taxi on the taxi company on the corner. It doesn't make sense, but some people don't want to change their behavior because that's how they've been doing business for the last 20 years. So that was my main challenge as the company and our sales team here. My main challenge was to educate the clients, educate the decision makers. They need faster, most cost efficient, and higher quality responses or insights when they need it, internally or externally. So,
is that getting easier now for you? Is to explain and educate on the benefit and value? Has that evolved a lot?
Sure, yeah. I think, so I'm not very hands-on with our sales, process right now. We have a great sales team here in DC and New York, so they are focused on, selling the service to multiple, clients for the marketplace. But it's getting easier. I think people, of course, as time passes, younger and more tech-savvy people taking higher roles, so it's easier to work with people who understand the importance of speed, the importance of engagement in cost-efficient ways. But the best way for us and our technology sales team to explain and educate is providing free credits. We are in a position sometimes, hey, get this 2-3 credits, ask 2-3 questions on the platform. We pay for it, and we guarantee after this experience, you will never go back to a traditional solution because it just doesn't make sense.
It's really cool. So just to chat a bit about, go back to AI for a second, right? So I think this is a fascinating topic for anybody to talk about, regardless of how much you know or how little you know. I would love to hear from your perspective, someone that's, working with this, about AI and machine learning and things like that.
Sure. Look, I'm always a big fan of technology. I'm an early adopter to many different technologies, but so I understand the optimist and pessimist view about the future of AI, right? Is AI going to help humanity or is it going to harm? Where we do stand? So it's a like a tough subject because like in the past when technology revolutions happened, right? When mass production started happening in late 18th century, a lot of people lost their jobs, but they created also more jobs. People became factory workers. People start working in certain areas. So like AI always causes job losses and in some cases job creation. But I think I'm a little bit more in the pessimist side in terms of job creation led by AI, because AI will only create high value jobs in the market. And unfortunately, large portions of the world are not ready to work on this, high value jobs such as like, drone technologies and, like operating drones or, being AI data scientists. I mean, how many data scientists we need? Not that many. We had to hire a lot of factory workers in the 18th century, 19th century. So I'm more worried about increasing social inequality because I think more people in the US and other parts of the world will be facing difficulties to earn income. It becomes more and more difficult. In 14th century, I mean, you were able to buy, this glass from country X and sell it on, country Y with a profit margin because there was the arbitrage factor that was easy to, make money doing trade if you carry a product from location A to location B because there wasn't that much communication or the price, price and transparency in those issues. Now, everything is real time. It's almost impossible to do arbitrage in physical goods and services. It will be more and more difficult for typical undergraduate, college graduates try to get jobs because, there will not be that much required accountants. Most of the accounting and auditing will be done by the AI. Maybe some high-level touch will be done by the head of the accounting firm, right? The same with the journalism. Of course, there's a human aspect still needed, but I think the percentage going down to 10-15%, and that will cause some real serious social problems. And we start seeing that, right? Last 10-15 years, I think in many countries now we have increasing populism, like increasing authoritarianism in the world. And unfortunately, those kind of issues would only fuel the anger and the hatred of some people who got isolated from the workforce. I mean, think about like 90s, right? I mean, if you would be based in Pennsylvania or Ohio, work as a textile factory, I mean, you lost your job because, free trade, maybe like, NAFTA, 94, all this stuff. But it wasn't the decision of Bill Clinton at that point, who, I want to ruin jobs in Pennsylvania and close the textile factories and export these jobs to. That was global trend and global dynamics. The same thing. It's no one's fault that AI is being built. You cannot stop those changes. You cannot, stop those transformations. It's going to happen. It's impossible to stop that transformation. So that's why we need to learn how to live in the AI age and how to make ourselves relevant in the future of the AI. But the most important risk is, unfortunately, it's not easy for masses to do that. So I think that will be more concern of the politics next 10, 25 years, how we keep those people part of the economy, right? Are we talking about UBI, universal basic income? Are we just gonna send them checks every month just to be, happy participants to the global economy that are kind of unfortunately suppressed? Some countries already start doing that. I think some countries will start thinking, I mean, some technologies like Andrew Yang is big on that idea. I think he's very right. I mean, he sees the risk coming. So in my opinion, if the politics can't resolve that issue, we will be facing significant uncertainties and risk factors next 25 years that may cause some domestic and global conflict, because the world population has still been increasing, and we need to feed those people, and we need to make sure the economy is embracing to those. And also think about the large FANG. I mean, Facebook, Amazon, all these companies. I mean, they need people to be part of the economy. Not only rich people like ordering groceries from Amazon or getting Ubers. I mean, ultra rich people having their drivers, or they're flying somewhere private or something. But the Amazon needs middle income to survive, middle income people to survive. And that's why, even though they are, I think, focused on automation and they're responsible for job losses, etc., at some point I think they will be the ones maybe funding and financing incentives like UBI, keep their growth going, because otherwise they're not going to survive either.
Yeah. The concept in artificial intelligence that really always catches me is the singularity. So this thought process that machine learning and AI hit a point, the singularity, where they become as intelligent and powerful as humans. And the idea is that at that point, because they can move so fast and make decisions so fast, that knowledge, invention, discovery will skyrocket. For years, we've kind of increased our knowledge and our discovery, and it's always been kind of a semi-flat line. But that point where we hit the singularity and AI truly becomes like a human, it just skyrockets up. I mean, have you heard of that concept before? And are you just skyrocket?
I mean, definitely. I think I mean that is a risk, and that's a potential opportunity, right? I mean, that may be some of the major problems of the humanity may be resolved through the enhanced cognitive and the knowledge created by AI. I think one of the great examples is IBM Watson, right? Watson has been working on challenge and like resolving a lot of like health related issues. I think many of these big data and AI technologies were utilized in inventing the vaccine, in data analytics part especially. So that's why probably we came up with an approved vaccine within less than a year. So I mean, there's no like again, I mean, it's not like a black and white issue. I think I agree with you. There will be a lot of augmenting the human knowledge and human understanding of universe may open many doors to all of us. But on the other hand, all these advances will also make people, humans, obsolete and irrelevant and unneeded. Then maybe you don't need 20 scientists working on coming up with a vaccine, and you may just have a machine. So I mean, I agree with you.
It's such an interesting thing for society because, I mean, at one point there was a shift where people had farms and they handled, they were very siloed, that they, had their own animals and their farms and these other pieces. But then we went to trade, and that was a big shift where people now did one thing and they sold it to another. That if AI really becomes this thing that is inventing, and I hear the concept with the singularity is that space travel is that the computers will not only, figure out the discoveries, but they'll also be able to print the engines, and they'll literally be able to do the whole process themselves, and does that change our society that we aren't, we go to that next shift where it isn't about working and trade. It's about something completely different that we don't see. I mean, I know we're talking 40, 50 years, but it's an interesting to think of, and my kids might be around to see it. So that's why I think about it.
I have a 7 and 5-year-olds, and I'm really worried. I mean, how they're going to make their living in 30, 40, 50 years, what profession they should choose. I mean, not everyone can become like data scientist or cybersecurity expert or, I think there will be like but then we should think about everything. Like we should reconsider typical university education. I mean, you need to go to like 4-year college and pay like $150,000. You know what? I don't think so. I can probably get the same education using, this all open source educational materials available everywhere on the internet. Why are you going to pay, like MBA degree to sit in front of my Zoom screen now and, and pay $150,000 for a year and a half? Whereas I could use that money for something,
We're going to have millions of philosophers and artists is basically what it's going to come down to.
Look, I mean, that's the most interesting thing. I think there is a saying, there are decades, nothing happens, and there are dates, decades happen. So we live in a days that decades happen.
Yeah.
All these things that we've been talking about, 5 years ago, more like in a futuristic point of view, became today's reality now, and that trend will be just accelerating. In 5 years, 10 years, again, it's difficult to, make predictions about where the world and the business world has been going. But one thing that I'm certain, that's why I'm investing my time and my energy building GlobalWonks, is human judgment will still stay relevant. I mean, even if we have all these amazing machines building AI, there will be some humans building those. And in some social science related stuff, in political decisions, again, like machine cannot make a decision about launching UBI for the masses or not, universal basic income. It's a human decision, Probably doesn't even make sense why the machine would think why we are giving free money to all these people, because the machine would miss the humanitarian side of things, because the system will not be sustainable if you don't provide living to these masses. And
I will have to disagree with you a little bit, because it's like my argument with my wife sometimes about self-driving cars, who's going to be better. But I trust a car and a computer much more than the person that's trying to text on their phone or put their makeup on in their car. And, for universal basic income, is there a chance that I trust the computer to have the data and the processing and be able to, understand the thousands of scenarios and outcomes that can happen and make a decision off of it versus, politicians who are, just devil's advocate. I mean, that's the interesting thing about AI is, is there what point do humans get a trust factor for what computers tell us to do? Because at some point their decisions might be better than, like self-driving cars. The decision of how they accelerate or make a turn or do anything else might be better than what a human can do.
I think there's a lot of conversation about AI ethics and AI moral. Think about a drone, right? If you are, flying over a certain enemy zone, as a pilot, and you see a target, but then you see 5 kids playing around the house. So you may decide not to hit the target because you're gonna kill 5 little kids playing on the target. Right? There's a human judgment. There's a human decision. But if you're drone flying, you're focused on your mission, and you're gonna bump the hell out of that place because you don't have any humanitarian or like a moral compass at that point. So those things are. But you can also train the drone. Don't shoot the target if there are 5 little kids playing around.
That's what I read about, self-driving cars, is that there were programmers that had to figure out in scenarios who dies. If it's coming up to a bridge and there's a woman walking across one part, and then there's a family, an older woman on one side, on the other it's a family with young kids, or you can veer the car off and kill the people in the car. What does the AI choose? Does it kill the old lady because she doesn't have as much time left? Does it kill the family? Does it kill the people in the car? And some programmer has to kind of think that through in those scenarios right now to determine.
Exactly. But also think from that, then that will be an institutional decision, right? Then all the Tesla cars have priorities in their algorithms who will be killed in certain situations. There will be a lot of points, contradicting or disagreeing with that decision. But then a human makes that decision as a human's decision at the certain situation and will be less questioned. So, I don't know how easy it is to choose, to kill an old woman or a young kid. There are different views to, there are different views to look at it.
It's the AI space is such an interesting one, and it touches everything today, but I think that's the amazing thing. What you're doing is, you're part of AI is bringing together all this knowledge and expertise and this human element of it for us, in this near-term future.
Yeah, it's an exciting field. I'm very happy that I'm being part of this, because again, not from the just corporate growth perspective, but also enabling many independent and in some cases like isolated knowledge economy workers, and provide them a fair ground, earning same levels of income with their counterparts in developed countries. Because again, today, location doesn't mean anything, right? It's a good thing and it's a bad thing. So I was talking to somebody from my home country, like Turkey, that he was interested in going to Stanford computer science, studying computer science at Stanford. But technically, anyone who wants to take all these computer science classes at Stanford can take those classes now online.
Right.
And I went to like a grad school, and I went to college, I know the value. The most important thing about the graduate schools or the colleges is the relationships you build, right? You get to know people, you go to MBA, you get to know the future SVP of a major corporation, and then you collaborate at some point, you help him or, she helps you, whatever, the deal is. But if you don't have that anymore, if no one is going to go back to buildings, and also think about the buildings, and buildings are such a waste of resources. Think about any building with 5,000 employees or 10,000 employees. Think about an EY headquarters or
right.
Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta, whatever. you use that building for 10, maximum 12 hours of the day and 5 days of the week. But you have security there, you heat that building, you provide electricity. The schools are open in certain months of the year, but you need to maintain this. So why are we wasting resources of the humanity? Maybe it doesn't make sense. And if I don't go to school building, why am I going to go to Stanford? I can just take classes online from people that I may get these classes. So I didn't believe there's another Chinese proverb saying, I wish you live in interesting times or something. This kind of, I don't know if it's a curse or a good thing, but we definitely live in interesting times and we don't know what the future is going to bring to us.
Yeah. Well, fascinating stuff, Cenk. Before we end today's show, where can people who are watching find out more about you and GlobalWonks?
Thank you. Like globalwonks.com is our basically domain, the platform for independent consultants who are interested in register and start monetizing their income. They can go and sign up through the globalwonks.com, the sign up page. Again, the same thing for the clients. They can just set up their accounts and do everything, or they can email us in the email address on the system. Personally, I'm available on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, my first name, last name, Cenk Sidar. Happy to have a dialogue with anybody interested in the subjects and the future of the knowledge economy. And it was a pleasure to chat with you guys. Amazing conversation. Fascinating. Thank you.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for everyone tuning in. Everyone take care. Have a great
week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.